Here.
Commissioner Michelle Morgan.
Here.
Commissioner Lee Powers. Here. Commissioner George Chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. This time we're going to call on Commissioner Lee Powers for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mr. Montrell McClendon.
Let us pray, please. Dear Lord Jesus, thank you for this day. And dear Lord, thank you for the citizens of this county. And thank you for this county and what it means to us and what it means to each commissioners. And dear Lord, please be with our elections tomorrow. Dear Father, please be with all our law enforcement and first responders and keep them safe, dear Father. Dear Father, I just ask you to forgive us for our sins. And dear Father, we know it's only through Jesus that we have salvation. And we want to thank him and give all the credit to him for everything. We ask everything in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, commissioners. This time we'll move down to item number 5, approval of tonight's agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none from the board, all those in favor? All those opposed? Next in front of you, item 6 is approval of tonight's minutes. We have the work session meeting minutes from September 27th. You have commission meeting minutes from October 2nd, and you have the executive session minutes from October 2nd. Look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? At this time, we'll move into public comments, which is item number 7 on tonight's agenda. We ask that speakers be limited to 3 minutes each. We only had one sign up. We're going to call on Mr. Pete Debick. Subject of comments is UWG A-Day.
Commissioners, thank you. I just wanted to come and share with you the outcome of A-Day. I can't thank you enough for agreeing to make October 18th officially A-Day in Carroll County and giving the proclamation. I had numerous people come up and tell me how that looked on social media and how that looked as the community coming together to support the university. Our goal was $250,000 for need-based scholarships. The last number I got, which was about a week ago, the University of West Georgia A-Day, along with the City of Carrollton community, faculty, and staff, raised $656,000 for need-based scholarships. So I want to thank.
No wolves.
I just wanted to show my appreciation to the board for helping make that possible and showing how the local government here and how the community supports UWG. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pete, thank you. Absolutely.
Congratulations, Pete.
We'll move into item number 8 in the financial session. As we discussed in the work session and went over these a lot more preliminary, I'll give us the highlights and captions of tonight's. If you've got any questions, we do have Alicia here, very limited. She still is trying to get through with the final auditing. But I will say that Rouston did personally call me to tell how she had done a tremendous job holding the fort together and with her staff and working through everything, had gotten everything in a very timely manner, and I think everything's in their hands. We're waiting for them to close out their end. Is that correct? So very close, very close. So Alicia, we thank you for all you've done. With that being said, if you'll turn into the general fund, to tell you that the cash reserves are extremely, extremely strong. You look at 2008, right now we have $5,897,538. If you compare that to 2017, that puts us at about $1,444,000 ahead. So cash reserves continue to be strong. Did you see there was 133,000 still left in SPLOST of 2008? We mentioned that the sheriff's roof and the CI, the last parts of the videos going on, is going to come extremely close to closing out the 2008 SPLOST. 2015 SPLOST is spending on, is right on budget for where we were. The allocations from the bond proceeds that we received will be going in now to the collection side. The bond payment, we thank goodness for an increase in revenues, 13% up, that we can make those payments a little better. The landfill fund we did discuss, y'all see that it is down from 2017, and that's because of the vegetative debris that we had to take until we determine what we can do more with our vegetative from the C&D landfill, how we want to handle that in the future, but that's cost us a little more to haul it off this time. You look at the revenues year to date at $6,497,000. That puts us up at about $1.4 million over last year. We continue to see revenues gaining a little. I never will forget 4 years ago when our community development director said, I think we're finally flat and reached the bottom, and we didn't know we were going to sit there for 4 years, but revenues are definitely looking a little better. And then if you go to expenditures, our total expenditures are about year to date are about $11,190,000. Prior year to date was about 10, but that's before we've had any type of reallocation from SPLOST with any reimbursements there. So if you look at our overall percent of expenditures budgeted and realized year to date, we're at 22.24%. This time last year, we were at 22.15%. So we're about right on target where we were last year. So that's a good thing. We'll continue as we watch the election tomorrow night and determine where Carroll County's headed with all of our revenue sources. We will continue to manage revenue and watch our expenditures. It's kind of what's got us in the cash reserves in the healthy. I think ACCG recommends 25%, and we're at 23 and some odd percent. So, and we've been a lot less than that, never had to borrow money. So I think we're in good shape overall financially. If there's any questions or anything for the board, Alicia is here. If you want anything down in the weeds, as always, feel free to call the staff. Any questions from the board? Seeing none. We'll go back. We'll now move into item 8.2 under the financial session. West Georgia Regional Airport fuel truck. We'll call on Gerald Pilgrim.
Commissioners, thank you. This is the fuel truck that we discussed last Thursday. It's for the jet fuel that'll be out for West Georgia Regional Airport. It's a used 2002 model. However, there is a longer life, about another 25 plus years expectancy on it. So this should serve them pretty well. The truck is one thing. It's really the back equipment that they have that you'll see. There'll be pictures of it. That's really the most important. The pumps for the jet fuel. If this was purchased new, it would be in about $225,000 to $250,000 range. It's something that the airport cannot afford on their own. And like we discussed last week, that they are a strong economic engine for us. This is something that, they're going to be growing, expanding. The chairman mentioned that the additional hangars that are going to be added out there, which is just more for us on Avalon for the planes that will be hangared there. So if y'all have any questions on that.
Seeing none, we'll look for a motion from the board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Now any discussion?
Okay, is there enough money out of the 2008 SPLOST?
There is not. We are close. We're about $111,000 that's in the checking account in the 2008 SPLOST. And we know that there's a $55,000 roof expenditure that's out there. There's still a little bit of the stuff where we did the video equipment. We're still waiting on the final, some of the final stuff from the CI and the sheriff's office that, there's still a few bills that are outstanding. So we think there's going to end up being about $35,000 extra in that for us to come back, but we'll know a little bit better next month for y'all. We do know that there's some outstanding bills that would not cover that. The 2013, there is still funds that are in the undesignated line, about $2.3 million, so that's where we would recommend out of 2013.
Any further discussions? Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Gerald. Don't leave. Item 8.3 is the budget amendment we've discussed for a couple of months here. If you'll go over that, please.
Commissioners, this is the budget amendment. This is a request for advertisement of a budget amendment. This is the amendment that we talked about that traditionally we've done this in June, and we usually do one November, December, based on the audit. This was not done in June that we've typically done. So we've had a few things in there. It's a little bit lengthier than normal, but one of the main requests is that we're asking for an increase of expenditures of $1,042,370, and kind of explain where this is kind of coming from. Of that million, I'm sorry, you on that? Of that million that you'll see, $243,000 is from the auditor's request, where we received the grant for the truck, for the vans, the 6 transit vans. So those are going to be shown as income and expenses on us on that. So we've had to show from that. So from that $1,243,000 is that. $640,000 and $640,733 is for the bonus that was paid out. That was done for the $1,000 bonus. So those are go into the salary lines and Social Security lines. And then the remaining, it's just under $200,000 or so, is going to be kind of give you the highlights. There's a lot of ins and outs. You'll see some little lines where the little parentheses are ones that we've reduced budget lines. But kind of the highlights. General administration, we've asked for additional $16,700. That's for utilities. So we were under budget by about 4% on that line item. And then under juvenile court, it was just an employee benefit as a reimbursement that was missed. We actually received the income for the health insurance. It just didn't get offset on there. So it's $16,900,000 for the health insurance. Then under public works, we had increased tipping fees at increased usage at all of our stations, at all of our convenience centers by about 1,500 tons that we collected more. And then we also had we had that, and then we also had an additional charge for the convenience center charges. But when Charles and I have gone back and looked at that, the budget from 2016-17 budget to 2017-18 was reduced by $128,000. We believe some of that was on the fee side, but the $17,500 was SLM undercharged us in 2016 and 17. They did not go up on their rates. We've confirmed that. They just undercharged us for those 2 years, or for that 1 year. So we actually shorted them 2 years ago, but last year they were able to catch back up, and that is what we should be approving on our budget-wise. So we've gone through it on that to make sure it is. But the biggest expenses is about $170,000. It's on workers' comp claims. The fire department had a fairly large number of claims. They're more of a frequency type issue. We're working with that with our safety committees, looking on that, ways to do that, some things that they can do, some ladder training. Tim Padgett's been one that he's on the committee. He's, as interim chief, he's watching that very closely. And then parks. Parks was kind of an outlier. They had 2 large claims. One of the employees was hit by an uninsured motorist, and he had $70,000 worth of medical claims that was from that through no fault of his own. And then the other was a gentleman who had been employed since 2011 or so, but had been a workers' comp issue since 2011. It was one that Human Resources was finally able to settle with him and get him off of that, so we don't have a recurring charges. So even with all this said and done, and I just want to compliment Alicia on what she's done. But really, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that, we've got a good basis, that Lehman Stevens has left us in a pretty good, the budget's in great shape. We're going forward, we're going by with some good numbers, some clean numbers. And this year, when the audit is said and done, if the budget amendment is approved and the audit, everything's out there, we'll have a fund balance growth of $1,444,000. So, Commissioner Anderson, this is one of your second to the last meetings. We aren't at the 25% like the chairman said, but we're just over 23% in fund balance. So we've grown. I think a couple of years ago we were looking at each other and it was about 16%. So that's through the board stewardship and everybody buying into it, and just appreciate that. And would like for y'all to consider this advertisement, mainly because if y'all don't approve it, we would be in non-compliance with the audit. So. And if there are some questions, though, this is really just a request for advertisement. If there are questions, please get with Alicia. It's one of those things where we can go through it line by line. There's some questions that are all popping up, especially as Rushton has sent it to her, that we're all on a learning curve, and the more questions, the more eyes on it, the better.
So item 8.3, we'll look for a motion for the board. Thank you, Jill.
Make a motion to approve to advertise for the budget amendment.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Now, any discussions?
Okay, so we will actually vote on this line by, well, not line by line,
You'll
but
vote
in
on
the
this
December meeting,
in
so I can
December
get with y'all
meeting.
with, okay, because I did not know we had changed the agenda, so I didn't look at this till.
This is just for advertisement
That's what I
purposes, so
So
yes.
that's what I thought. Okay, great. So I'm good with that.
Vote will be on next month.
Yes, so we've got a month, and the reason is we have to, just with our charter, y'all have to approve a line-by-line request to advertise. So we're trying to be overly compliant with the charter and the audit.
Okay.
Because with motion and a second, any further discussion?
On
Yes.
workers' comp, I know with the type of work that we have and many things, is there any way to tighten that up from a standpoint of monitoring? And, I know sometimes they'll say you can come back at light duty, but the question is, can you do light duty in your area? And what do we do in those situations? And because sometimes that creates a larger problem and a bigger expense, and you want to take care of your employees, but you don't want to create, a real liability for the county.
Commissioner Anderson, you're right on it, and that's one of the things that the Safety Committee has taken on, a little bit more proactive approach with that. Unfortunately, to go to your point directly, and Mr. Pope had one that we'll see probably in the January, so when we try to do an amendment, we had a pretty large workers' comp thing that this was a gentleman that we settled with him. We've got him finally off the payroll. He was on his fourth workers' comp case that was open with us at one time. So we've got to do a better job of managing that. We're working with ACCG on doing some better programs. And, these are ones that have just been kind of carried over from years. And
Yeah, and I think that could be.
I'm sorry, neighbor.
Yeah. Avery works with Ann in HR on this, so Avery.
Yep, we are actively looking at those cases and seeing what we can do to help the employees, but not put ourselves in a bind where you have a situation where, particularly when you have employees that are not going to be able to come back to their original position of employment and fulfill those duties again, and how to handle those situations. It's something that we've looked at with employment lawyers, and I know that there's the safety committee that's looked at the issues, and we're working closely with Ann about how to handle those situations. So your concern is something that we're all concerned with, and we're actively looking at.
Well, I think, we always take care of our employees, but sometimes we have to have clear-cut answers on what we do, and we have to do it quickly. Or we have to do it within a real timely time frame. So, thanks.
So, thank you.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. Next, we'll move into item number 9, we'll be moving into the business session. We'll call on Stacy Blackman, County Attorney, for a de-annexation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I did hear from the city, and they have already voted on this matter. They approved it just now at their meeting tonight. So we have before you to consider an application for approximately 26.47 acres located near Valley Drive and Pine Ridge Drive to be de-annexed out of the city of Carrollton back into the county. So, and the city of Carrollton has approved this application tonight.
Thank you. Look for a motion from the board.
Motion made.
Second.
Motion second. Now, any discussion?
It'll be considered agricultural?
Yes.
So we made this request.
They made the request.
The property owner made the request to the city of Carrollton, and the city of Carrollton has approved it at their meeting
To go from
tonight.
city back to county
Okay.
and
then
go
we're
into
okay.
agriculture.
Then we're okay, it goes back to agriculture. Okay,
It's a swamp, Vicky, to bring you up today, it's a swamp area, it cannot be built on.
okay,
Yeah, nothing of perks, nothing approved.
great, thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Now any discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Now we'll move into item number 10. We'll be moving into the zoning sessions. We'll call on Ms. Janet Hyde, our county planner, to give us our instructions.
Good evening, Commissioners and Chairman. The first item that I have tonight is item C-18-10-01. This is a conditional use for a secondary detached dwelling for 45 Fiddler Lane in Bowden. This is tax map number 0390025. This is in Commissioner Chambers District, District 6. Planning Commission recommended approval of this application. This is a hardship situation. This family is wanting to add a secondary detached dwelling for an elderly mother who's disabled. The property owner is a single mother, and she's wanting also to have the father close by, who will be living with the mother, but so that he can also help with her children. I don't think they realized until they came in that their property does, according to the tax map, stretches back to Barnes Road. So they have 2 potential property frontages for driveways. So they are going to get a survey to make sure that's correct, and they will possibly be putting the second driveway off of Barnes Road rather than Fiddler. If that doesn't work, they will be adding a second home on that driveway from Fiddler Lane. The applicant is present.
Okay, while the applicant makes there, we'll go over procedures for the governing and conduct of all zoning hearings. The applicant or anyone speaking in favor has 10 minutes to present their request. Then we'll open up the floor for 10 minutes to anybody that is here in opposition. At that time, we'll close the floor. We'll open it back up 5 minutes apiece for either party for rebuttals. I don't see a huge crowd here tonight, so we will move forward. And just state your name, address, and just the request.
Okay. My name's Amanda Johnson. I'm requesting for 45 Fiddler Lane in Bowden, Georgia. Again, I'm just wanting to add a second home to the property, either have the driveway coming off of Fiddler Lane, where my driveway is right now, or coming off of Barnes Road. It is a second home for my mother and my father. My mother's disabled, so I can help her during the daytime. And then also because I'm a single mother with 3 kids, my dad would be there to help with my kids with after school or anything like that. We just need them a little bit closer to help one another out.
Okay. Amanda, anyone else here to speak in favor of this that you want to bring forth?
My dad's here.
Okay. We'll say by representation unless he wants to speak.
You want to say anything?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As she was saying, well, what we're trying to do is, if this goes through, if it's approved, we'll have it surveyed to find out if part of it does touch Barnes Road. What we're hoping for is that it does, so that I can purchase an acre from the back part of it so that when something happens to us, me and my wife, she won't be stuck with 4 acres with 2 houses. And that's what we're hoping, that we can purchase that, and that way we'll be right there together. So anything with her or us, we're right there for each other.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
If no one's else here to present, I'm going to ask, is there anybody in opposition under the zoning session, item 10.1? We'll ask again, anyone in opposition of item 10.1 under the zoning session? Seeing none, we'll waive those minutes. We'll waive the rebuttal for both sides too, and we'll look for a motion from the board, and I will motion it. Commissioner Chambers called me, was in favor of this. I will make the motion.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second for this. Now is there any discussion?
Is this a permanent, Janet, is this a permanent?
I believe
it's
they're
not
wanting
a-
to put a mobile home. You want to put a mobile home for your parents, right? Yes, ma'am. Mobile home.
So and I know, okay. But so, tell me, is this conditional use?
It is a conditional use
Okay, it's a conditional use.
for a secondary detached dwelling.
Okay, so do they also understand that at some point, that second dwelling, I mean, this is for a hardship case, but that may not be able to stay there permanently, as far as, like, if you wanted to make it a permanent house or something. Is that not correct?
That would be a condition that you all would have to put on the approval.
Well, my question is, we're putting 2 houses on a 1 4-acre lot.
Right. It is not zoned ag.
Oh, it's not?
No,
What's it zoned?
it's zoned a residential zoning, R3, I
Three.
think.
Oh, okay. And what's the total acreage? It's 4.19.
It's- Right. The minimum lot size in that zoning is 3 acres. So they would have to apply for a variance later for,
Okay. So if they're attempting to get another driveway, and my question is, if they're still in the process of doing things, why are we doing a conditional use at this point until we know what the final situation is?
right. This seemed to fit what they were wanting to do right now.
Does that go along with our zoning?
It does. I mean,
Okay.
the future land use for that area, because it's already zoned residential, the future land use is residential, so.
I guess I'm thinking like you are. Okay, so if the separate driveway makes it nice, because down the years, if you sold it, you have to divvy up the driveway.
Right.
So there's 2 driveways, makes everything really nice. But if they ever decide to sell this secondary conditional use
Right.
home, I guess that's what
Right.
we're asking.
And actually,
Does-
it would not be a variance, it would be a rezoning they would have to
Rezoning.
go
Okay, so
through
that-
in
so
the
we're
future.
good.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
it couldn't be sold then.
That's what I'm sorry to butt in, that's what the gentleman was saying, that he would buy
He's
additional
buying property
land
off the back.
off the back
Got it.
to where he could sell it,
Got it.
And then
to
he
make
would
the
be
minimum.
approved.
But he
Where?
doesn't own that yet, so right now, it's to add 2 houses to 1 parcel.
Right, but
But
he'd
what he
still
was-
be short land.
Right, so that's why it's doing a conditional use, but what he was saying is if he could buy additional land in the future, then his daughter wouldn't have to own the entire 4 acres.
Right, and they'll come back and rezone it.
Exactly.
So it's divvied up
Well,
into 2 parcels.
and if he buys enough land,
Got
he'd
it.
meet the minimum
He'd
lot
meet the
size, he
minimum
wouldn't have to
anyway.
ever come back.
Got
But
it.
he doesn't own that.
Right, okay. Just
So
as
what
long-
got the question going was the 2 driveways, which in this case, both houses can utilize the same driveway.
Yeah, well, you got me
We're just
confused.
thinking-
That's right, we talked about future things and then today. But just for today, it's a conditional use permit to add another dwelling to the same parcel.
Okay, just as long as they know what a conditional use is.
Yes.
You know,
That-
that it's not permanent in certain cases unless it's rezoned or whatever.
Got it.
I just, people get confused about conditional use, so, okay.
Any other further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
The second case that I have is C-18-10-02. This is a conditional use for owner applicant Todd Wright for conditional use for a special event venue. Property is zoned ag, located at 1074 Glenlock Road in Rooteville. This is tax map number 097-0002 and 097-0044. There are two parcels that are being considered. Planning Commission did recommend approval of this application. Mr. Wright is basically, with conditions, and I'll go over those conditions in a second. He's basically asking for an amendment to his previous application. His initial application that came before this board in 2013 was only good for as long as he owned the property. And now he has a buyer for the property and would like this conditional use to be continued beyond his ownership. The conditions that Planning Commission put on the property, on the approval, was that both parcels stay under the same ownership. And this was at the recommendation of the county attorney, because under our special event venue ordinance, which was not in place at the time of the initial approval, it does require that there be 50 acres for this size of venue. Also, in order to meet the setbacks required by that special event venue ordinance, both parcels would have to be under the same ownership. So if you all approve this, I would recommend that you approve it with that condition that both parcels stay under the same ownership. The other condition that Planning Commission recommended was that the approval be only for one additional owner. That was based on staff recommendation that approval be passed along as the initial approval was done. I think staff is fine with you all not recommending that approval only be for one additional owner. This board has not done that for additional special event venues. I think this was one of the first ones, so that may be why you all approved it just for one owner. The rights are present.
All righty. Thank you.
I'll try not to preach, yeah.
10 minutes.
That's right. and then the invitation. Yeah, I think we applied for this in 2013. It's been good. It's gone really well. But we are considering the possibility of selling, and it's difficult having a business that you're possibly marketing to sell, but there's question marks on whether it could continue to be that business, and so that's why we would like to get this done, at least, for this possible transaction. So I'll answer any questions you have.
Well, we're under the 10 minutes. Anybody, does your wife want to speak on? We don't need anybody, but if anybody's here to speak under your 10 minutes, we will allow those 10 minutes.
That's fine.
First. Okay. Anybody else?
No.
All right. We'll close those 10 minutes out. Now let's ask, under the zoning request for tonight, item 10.2, is there anyone here in opposition? Restated, item 10.2, under zoning session, any opposition? Seeing none, we'll close out all minutes, all rebuttal time, and now we'll open it up for questions.
Chairman, I'm going to be making a motion, but I asked Stacy, our attorney, to explain some stuff since we've got some stuff going on with these venues and stuff, and she's going to clear some stuff up.
Absolutely.
Thank you. If you do approve this application, then we recommend that it be conditioned upon having the same owner hold title to both tax parcel 097-0002 for 42.89 acres and tax parcel 097-0044 for 10 acres. So you have the same owner for both tax parcels for approximately 53 acres.
And the venue is on one of the 10 acres, or
It will have to be the whole 50-something acres is what
It's
she
gonna
was
be the
saying.
whole
Oh,
thing.
okay.
It has to be the whole
So
thing.
basically, you just want the venue of.
The entire 52 acres really
To go.
encompasses the whole place, so it would all be
Okay,
contiguous.
okay.
And Stacy's
then-
recommendation is for it to stay together.
Yes.
Okay. And then if anybody bought it and they wanted something different, then they would have to come back?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I'm,
So are we approving it for whoever he sells it to or this specific
I'm just gonna
person?
make that motion.
It's whatever your motion is,
Okay.
whether,
Okay.
And I'm gonna make a motion that we approve it and we do not limit it to any other. I mean, it is what it is, it just has to stay the 52 acres. And that's my motion.
and your motion, excuse me, is your motion to include the condition I read?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so back to my question. Is this going to this guy out of Paulding County and the conditional use goes with him? Or it just goes, if he gets a second buyer instead? Exactly, I'm confused on that part.
It will be anybody he sells it to if they keep it 52 acres. But if they do not keep it 52 acres, they lose it.
Okay, then it's, if that person sells it, they have to come back again?
Yes.
No.
No, unless you put that requirement on there, there's no, if I understood your motion correctly, there was not any duty to reapply for this conditional use.
Okay.
As long as it stays full partial.
Yes, as long as it stays 52 acres.
Okay, I understand.
And it
So whoever he
stays the
sells to,
event,
whoever they
The
sell to.
special event,
Yes.
Correct. It's-
like it is, okay.
Good with that.
Okay.
Okay, I understand.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Pastor, thank you.
Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Yeah, all those in favor? All those opposed? We stand adjourned.